Hello, I'm horror cartoonist Dennis St. John. I draw monsters and write twisted tales. As you can imagine, I was a little obsessed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Lucky for me, so were most of my high school friends, all except one. One friend who stubbornly refused to join the Scoobies. So here we are, 20-some-odd years later. I'm teaming up with Doc Travis, John Teach Landis, and maybe a special guest or two. And we're going to make our friend, Michael Poley, watch one episode of Buffy a week until he's no longer the Buffy Virgin. Hi, and welcome back. You've made the choice to return to Buffy Virgin. We have a special episode tonight, Choices. With us, as always, is Michael the Virgin Poley.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. I've only seen up to Choices. We're so close to the end of season 3. I'm very excited. Thank you for having me.
We have Doc Trav.
Michael had no choice but to be here, but I did. And I chose Buffy, as always.
And playing the part of John Teach Lando this week is David Smallville Yoder.
Hello, thanks for having me on again.
I'm just kidding, of course. David is just playing himself. John is out. He's at a watcher's retreat this weekend. But we are very happy to have from the Smallville podcast, somebody save me from this podcast. All right, let's begin this episode with reactions.
Audience reactions.
We had a pretty positive week on Twitter, at least. People liked my drawings I posted. So Buffy Angel Show said cool. Dark Slayer, aka Faith Lahane 91, asked if I was an illustrator and said she was an illustrator too, and liked the crocodile illustration and the one where Faith and Buffy were dancing together. Obviously, all the Faith drawings went over well. We actually had a really nice conversation. She's from Brazil, and is a good artist, but I didn't get permission to say her real name, so I will save that. And Dingo Action said tough in negotiations about my Skylar drawing. That's all the reactions I found this week.
I feel like Dingo Action has been listening for a long time. But maybe...
Yeah, long-time listener.
Yeah, thank you.
Dingo Action.
Thank you for staying around.
Usually post something funny.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the summary.
The summary.
The unconventional father-daughter relationship of a mayor and a slayer continues as Richard Wilkins III gives Faith the gift of a crazy-looking knife. She loves it. She loves it so much she has to smell it. Meanwhile, in the less crazy part of town, it's that difficult time of senior year where everyone is finding out what college they got into. Willow got into everywhere. Xander got into a book for the first time in his life. And Buffy got into an actual good school, Northwestern. Her father figure / former watcher Giles couldn't be prouder. But can she leave Sunnydale? Not with the mayor and former friend Faith still knifing around. So it's time for B to get proactive. Faith has just done some quality airport murder for Wilkins and procured a large box of mysteries. But before she can quote 7 at you, the Scooby Gang break into the mayor's office and steal it. Who says he can't fight City Hall? Only problem? Willow got caught. What's more important, sweet, lovable Willow, or the box and its many magical mysteries? Oz and Buffy say Willow, so a swap is set for the high school cafeteria. To think, only last week Buffy was slapping around the lunch lady and her rat poison treats right there. The trade goes relatively smoothly, but like Jell-O, there's always room for more trouble. And Snyder bursts in with the police. Well, the box gets open, and what's in the box? Spiders. Lots of spiders. Faith stabs one with her new best friend, Mr. Knifey, and loses it. Everyone goes back to their sides, and Willow is safe. She's also made a decision. UC Sunnydale. Willow and Buffy will matriculate together.
Wow. I love all of that.
Love the sound effects.
Thanks. I was trying to up my game a little to compete with John and Mike's.
I like that instead of sound effects like from a library, I feel like everything was made with your mouth.
Yes.
The spider effect.
Was it that obvious?
What was that spider effect?
Oh, I could tell. I was like, that's his mouth sounds.
That was lovely.
Thank you. So now you know what happened this episode. But what was everybody's favorite lines?
Great lines.
David?
Oh, I liked, what are you, the narrator? Faith?
Yeah, that was a good line.
That's an awesome line, David.
I like Xander going, "We bohemian anti-establishment types have always been persecuted." Well, sure. You're all so weird. And I think it was Buffy's assessment of the mayor. Big, stupid, evil guy.
I love when Willow was being captured, and she goes, "Hey, did you get permission to eat the hostage? I don't think so. You're going to be in so much trouble when the mayor gets more." So good. And then also the mayor to Faith. "Did you ever have a dog?" "I did. Rusty, an Irish setter. Swell little pooch." It's like, what is happening?
That's like, we know from 2 episodes ago that Faith always wanted a dog but never had one.
Look how she even she was thrown as like the non sequitur from the mayor. Like, I was like, love it. Swell little pooch.
Swell little pooch.
I liked Willow's weird recap of her experience being kidnapped, which is like, so Faith is like, "I'm gonna beat you up, and I'm not afraid of you." And then she had the knife, so she was less fun. But I told her, "You made your choice. Buffy was your friend." And then like Giles is just like, "Please tell me something useful." He doesn't say that, but that's the emotional component.
It isn't a. It's like it's such an adorable in episode recap. We rarely get in episode. She did like the summary almost. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that, her describing it isn't what we've seen exactly, but it's like how you would enthusiastically tell the story.
Yeah.
Also, it's like, she's such a big smile. I mean, obviously, yes, if you're rescued, your story is going to be really, you're like, oh, it's going to be a fun story.
So this episode, I've moved the kill count up to the beginning of the episode to try that out. So, the kill count.
The kill count.
2 humans, including Faith's second human murder, 4 confirmed vampires, 1 unconfirmed, and the series' second vampire stake with a pencil. So congrats to Willow for that. 2 dead spider demons, and a mentioned but not seen nest of fire demons. So there we go. Now you know what you're in for.
So the cop is one of those, right? There was a cop killed in the skirt, stuff. Okay.
Yeah, he gets spider faced.
All right, cool.
All right, let's move on to weird noticings and trivia.
Weird noticings.
Faith loves that knife. Like, just her. I mean, the whole episode, she's like, any chance she can, she pulls it out. But just at the beginning where she's like sniffing it and she's like, this is a thing of beauty. Like, the mayor knows her so well.
I've had that feeling before too. Like when you go to Ren fairs and you're just like, oh, just that like lust after a weird fantasy knife.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want it, but you're like, oh, that'd be so cool.
My office mate, actually, he's like a former Ren Fair knight.
Oh.
And we have a lot of like Renaissance swords and stuff. And he actually like had a custom built knife delivered at the office one day. Though it's totally the kind of knife that would have been used for ritual on Buffy. It's got like this like emerald handle and stuff. They would have loved it on the show.
Is that cool to have at work? Just curious. I mean, to have a knife. I guess if it's a fantasy knife, doesn't really count.
Like 3 samurai swords and like a medieval sword, so the knife doesn't really put it over the edge in my office.
Which Ren fair do you work at?
No, he was a Ren Fair knight for like 20 years or something.
Wow.
I guess you never stop being a knight.
Once a night, never a day.
Yeah.
My wife worked in the Ren Fair stuff too, but all she has is like a little, like some leather stuff, leather belts and stuff.
He also still has his armor in the office.
Well, he can suit up whenever he needs to, man. If he's getting attacked by another former Renaissance knight, they're not going to go home to get their suits of armor.
No, he also has some he was also Batman for a while at Six Flags, and there's some Batman paraphernalia in the office.
Oh, man.
Do you work in a toy store?
I feel like he works at this weird fantasy place.
Yeah.
Yoder's been there. He knows it's real.
It's pretty much a toy store.
Yeah.
Just because I play with toys for a living.
I did see that the Peanuts toys are in Happy Meals now.
They are, yeah. I worked on those.
Oh, cool.
Go to McDonald's, get a Happy Meal. Tell them your friend worked on them.
Is there some secret thing only we would know that would signal that you did the work? Or is it just completely anonymous?
I mean, I've worked really hard on on that project for like a year, but no, there's no secret code or anything.
So I give him a special nod when I get to McDonald's.
Just say, I'm loving it.
Hey, so Willow's backpack, that's fucking rad, right? Like she has this fuzzy backpack in that weird scene where Xander's reading. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Just like totally gave me a goth Hot Topic flashback. It's fantastic.
All of the outfits this episode are like on point. I know we'll get to that a little later. Yoder, you got the next one?
Oh, yeah. So when we go back to the mayor's office, he has cookies this time, but there's no milk in sight, as far as I could tell.
That's true. Where's the room temperature milk?
Well, it's odd to space those out so far, too.
Is that in the same scene where Faith gets the knife? Is the cookies?
Yeah.
Man, always got to have something weird to like this episode to like anytime. I mean, because like there's this weird element of violence and scariness, and then of course this cute like 1950s whatever this mayor character is, like the contrast. Because anyway, that's great.
We're like 1900s, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. We get the reveal on his
Aunt 4.
Yeah. It's like, damn, this guy had to like. The thing, I spent the first 5 years of 2000 to 2005 not knowing what the hell it was supposed to be called. It was the aughts.
Yeah, we know the aughts didn't blow up this century. They will in the past when we reflect on them.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the roaring 20s. That's what I want to.
Oh, there you go. Right.
Yeah. So Buffy got into Northwestern. I have kind of a funny story about Northwestern, if you guys want to hear it. So
yes.
Yeah.
You know, when my brother was in high school, he was like a real high achiever and everything. Like he had like a 4.2 and he like had a perfect SAT math and like a really high. So like he was getting into a lot of good colleges, but he did not get into Northwestern. And part of the problem was my mom was always helping him with stuff. And she knew that people reading college essays like humor. So she told him like, write something funny. And so for my brother, humor for him is only like really like dismissive. So for every essay question that Northwestern asked, I think they asked like 3 or something. He just wrote these like 1-sentence answers. It was just, and then it's funny. The only one I remember though is their last question is, for future applicants, what question do you think we should ask? And his answer was, Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't fuzzy. Was he? So that's how, even if you have good SATs and good math, you don't get into a good school.
You can still tank an application with some overly creative responses.
Wow. I want to laugh, but that's so painful.
That's harsh. That's really rough.
Somehow, yeah, you know, it was a little while before we really figured out.
Like why?
Yeah.
Did you guys have did you guys deconstruct that and like go back like, hey, what was that essay? What'd your application look like? And he like pulled it out of a drawer. He's like, oh yeah, this is what I turned in. You know, it's like,
no, Liam, he was proud of that one because he was like, it's really funny. So he showed it to me, and I was like, oh.
So that's how that one got figured out.
Ugh. That's what sucks about parental guidance sometimes, right? Like
It's terrible.
I've gotten guidance like that, like, oh yeah, make it funnier, or be weirder.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, so the example that mom got from like the person at IU who reads those essays was like an example of, if you're being roasted, what are your friends saying about you? And that the essay was like describing literally being roasted on a stick. And like people were still saying stuff, but it was like taking it, it was a humorous way of answering the question, but not dismissing the question. Like the thing is, like, you can't tell somebody who doesn't understand humor to be funny, right?
I know that more than anyone.
I feel like there's a special subreddit for this kind of cringe humor. of like people who don't get this.
Yeah.
So-
Speaking of pretentious, I just think Xander's on the road. Xander cuts a little close to home for me, but probably more so for John, who isn't on here to defend himself. But it's also funny to think of like in this world of like where vampires are real and stuff, for people to be rooting on the road. Like, I don't know. There's something about like these two worlds colliding in weird ways for me.
Oh yeah, you'd think in a world where supernatural shit exists, like basically any lessons from literature no longer apply.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
It's just like advice from a fourth grader.
It's like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't read any books written before the Hellmouth opened, so
Yeah.
I can't really take into account.
Or does their version of On the Road have like, then Dean Moriarty and I ran from some vampires, but we got back on the road.
I mean, did Jack Kerouac's best friend get turned into a vampire that Jack Kerouac then had to kill? If not.
Yeah, there's like Mary Lou would forever be 14 to us because she turned into a vampire at 14.
So this is weird. I took a screenshot. I'm not sharing this very well. I don't know if you can see this. There's a
There we go.
it's Wesley's doing this weird
Oh.
thing on his
He's
chest.
doing this. Just do the thing, Mike.
Okay, yeah, just do. We all do this thing, right? We all do this.
By the power vested in me by the Watchers Council.
He's
So
totally made that up.
He's got his two fingers on each of his hands, kind of like on his chest together, and then he's saying like,
He says, by the power vested in me by the Watchers Council, I forbid it.
yeah, that's it. It's you got it. Yeah, so it's by the power of the Watchers Council. So I guess it's a W he's making with his fingers. It's kind of what's
Like a
happening.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
So we haven't really gotten in deep into Watcher lore. I assume since the series continues forever that we will at some point. This feels like some weird Watcher shit.
Yeah. I really like the idea that this is something Giles could have done at any point, but he was like, no, Buffy will make fun of me if I do that stupid hand gesture.
By the power of the Watchers Council.
And like, Wes just doesn't have the social skills to know the teenage girl will make fun of me.
Yeah, Wes does not come off good in this episode, man.
Yeah, no, this is interesting. Like,
Rough Wes episode.
yeah, Wes is like really beginning to lose it this episode.
David, you had a point in there. Sorry, I think got cut off.
I was just gonna say it seems like real secret society shit that the finger crossing, yeah, skull and crossbones,
It is that simple, right? That's like the Secret Society shit is all like gonna be totally just like, okay, see you guys.
Yeah, the secret handshake is that you wiggle your pinky or something.
Tickle the other man's palm.
And by that we shall know each other in darkness.
Yoder, you also got the next point.
Okay, so when Buffy and Angel are out patrolling, is it really the first time that Buffy's thought about how she'll age, but Angel won't? It seems like it's the first time she's thought about it with any seriousness.
Well, they're thinking about the future. Like she actually thinks that she has a future this ep, right? Because it's about going to college or whatever. So maybe she hasn't. I find it difficult to believe that as well, though. But
That's a good call, though. That like she's been living in the moment for so long. She's been purposely not thinking about the future because like we can get murdered any night.
Yeah.
But getting into Northwestern, that's a choice.
Isn't it just so weird? Like their weird relationship, Buffy and Angels, in this episode. Like they're like kind of like play fighting, or they're like they're patrolling, they're fighting, and then they're
Having their night picnics at the end.
it's like, what is this relationship?
So I ask, is that the same crossbow Faith stole in Bad Girls? It doesn't look like a very professional assassin-y tool. Where she shoots the guy with the snake face tattoo.
wasn't it more of a longbow? It seemed like a longbow, right?
Yeah, I didn't even think it was a crossbow.
Oh, maybe it was a longbow. I just thought it was like it looked very like huntery and not like professional murderer.
Well, speaking of that scene, not paying for weird demon shit that comes in a box seems like a huge mistake. And the fact that the mayor is like, hey, you didn't get paid. And he's like, that's cool. Like, no, it's not. That's a huge problem. That's the source of the demon stuff. this like set off huge alarm bells for me. This shit has to get resolved. This is what's going to get the mayor killed at the end of the season is whoever he killed for this. Because like this is so fucking. It's just you can never sell now. How can you up? You better be invincible. You know you can't do that shit. That's mob shit.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I think you know that the mayor and Faith are both like they're like level 5, and they assume most people they're going to run into are like level 3 or something, so they can get away with like not paying and murdering, right?
But yeah, but just like for the Books of Ascension as well, right? They just have this terrible track record. Like no one should. Anybody who sells antiquities or deals in that stuff should never approach them because they might be murdered. Like it just
Yeah, you're right.
They're operating so recklessly.
Yeah, they're both like feeding into each other's like unstableness, sort of.
I played a D&D game or it was Dungeon World actually, but I played a game this week where my character was evil, and at the end of it, we had like captured this guy, or we had kind of trapped this guy, and everyone else on my like team was good or lawful or something, and they were like going to interrogate him, and I was like, I just shoot a firebolt at him, and they're like really upset with me because they're like, no, we needed a lot more information. I'm like, I'm evil. I melted him.
Like no one else was going to shoot a firebolt at him. Somebody had to step up.
I'll tell you what, Trick would have handled that a lot better.
Yeah, that's why you know without Trick, you know they're not following the rules.
I think Faith as his companion is going to that's going to down the mayor. There's no other way. They're done.
She's a sloppy mess sometimes.
Yeah. So Xander walking into the retail store that we learn that Cordelia works in to hate on her about her college situation is so fucked up. He is so angry in this episode. I assume because he didn't get into college, but like this happens twice. There's that first scene where Willow gets into school and we're all pleased and proud of her. And then like Xander sees Cordelia, is like, hey, guess how amazing my friend is. And then he just does it again to her. And then she rebuffs it. So it's like, hey, look, I am accepting these places. He's like, well, your daddy's money. But like, it was so upsetting to see him go out of his way to be an asshole. I guess for this weird story arc where Cordelia is like, has a job to sell that information.
Secretly has a job. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But that was so painful to watch. That scene, like, this can't, why would you?
It actually feels more painful knowing she's at work. Cause that's like, yeah, she can't escape. She's just being harassed at work by an ex-boyfriend. This is awful.
I know, right? That's terrifying. And then it's also kind of weird that she brought all those letters to work. So maybe she like had just gone home and then went from home to work to open them up. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe
why did she have that shit with her?
Maybe she was just taking to school and went from school to work.
I hope as an ex-boyfriend I've never done that shit. Like brought up anyway. I may have. I don't know.
Me too. I don't know. All right. Why don't we talk about some fashion? Yoder's Fashion Corner.
Yeah, so my little fashion observations for this episode. I really like the colors in Buffy's spring dress, the teal and purple. Thought that looked really nice on her. I also liked Willow's velvet dress with the full sleeves and the Sun Moon Wicca looking design. Yeah, but she covered up a lot of the time with that jacket that she had, but that's fine. And then I thought Xander looked really good in his silky shirt as well. And Cordelia was also messing around with that sparkly sleeveless dress. She would probably look really nice in that.
Thank you. I feel like since
I went this segment all the time. This is fantastic.
I feel like since John's not here to point out Xander's weird sweater of the week, he's wearing like another of these weird ass homemade or made on set sweaters that says bean sprout. Yeah, thanks for the fashion corner, Yoder.
You're welcome.
Now, does the fashion stuff in part come from the fact that you're both artists and so you have to draw clothes and you're like, you like are maybe more thoughtful about that? Because like some of that stuff that's big jumps out to me, but not all of it. I don't know. Just curious.
I don't know. I've just been picking it up, but I'm really not a fashion person at all.
I do. Because I draw a lot of like female characters, I sometimes have a hard time with outfits, so I do try to pay attention and steal outfits. Like, I steal a lot of outfits from Jaime Hernandez comics, because he draws women pretty well. I think there's this weird visual shorthand with like if you're trying to draw a female character who's not too feminine, you like give her jeans and then a skirt over the jeans, and like that's not a real look. Like I'm trying to get away from that and just draw like actual pants, because I feel like I haven't seen anyone wear that in real life, at least in a long time.
It feels very 90s to even think about that.
Yeah. You got the next one, Yoder.
Okay, so I know Buffy goes on patrol and stakes vampires, but when she's grabbing the vampire for like information, and he's just sitting in his own car minding his own business, she questions him, and then she stakes him when he gets too violent or whatever. That seems just like murder to me. like if she's actively going after vampires minding their own business, like that's a different story, I feel like.
I'll allow it because he worked for the mayor.
Willow got kidnapped. Shit's got to go down.
Yeah. Well, this was before Willow gets kidnapped.
Well,
this is just info. You can't let him live because then the mayor will know that you know.
Oh, that's how it's like.
But the mayor won't be suspicious of like, oh, the driver just turned to dust randomly.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is such a messy episode.
During Bad
really
Girls, they assault vampires who are just sleeping. They bust into
Do
a nest during they bust into a nest during daylight.
Oh shit, that's right.
So that's how we found out about the box of Gavrock, which really, seeing this really indicated to me how much I've like been subconsciously stealing from Buffy, especially my graphic novel Amelia, because like it's got a box that's really similarly designed, although a lot smaller. I also thought about this like last week when they were watching the movie The Banquet of Amelia, and I was like, is that where I got that name from?
Don't think twice about it.
So the last episode hasn't aired yet, but the Demons Without the Mouth that were on last week, they reminded me a lot of something that you would like draw, Dennis. They really looked like. Yeah, I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like it totally looked like.
Way influenced my friggin' life.
Yeah, that's great.
Wow. It is a cool monster, though. That's a great representation of it.
Thank you.
I like that you're focused on the face, too, because, like, in my mind, I'm not thinking of it as just the face. I'm thinking of the whole weird body. But it is the face that's, like, the most interesting thing about that monster, because obviously the mouthlessness. So, like, that's great to draw attention to that. Yeah, so this episode has an amazing emotional moment that made me cry. And I'm getting emotional thinking about it because it's so good. But in this episode, when they're debating whether or not to trade the box for Willow or not, and then they could do this formula or whatever they're going to do, and then Oz just smashes the vase with the ingredients and stuff, it was incredibly emotionally powerful. Really worked. Wow, what a great moment. That really got me. It's getting me now just talking about it. So good.
That's great, Mike, that you're being like emotionally affected by this show.
Oh, I can't help it. It just got me.
This episode also made me cry, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But,
really? Different reasons.
Yeah, different scene. But like, I mean, this is, it's such a great, because like, it's just an argument, because Buffy like is totally on the same side as Oz, but Oz is the one who takes the action and is like boyfriend number one, this dude.
Totally. Fuck Xander.
He's the only good guy on Buffy. The only good dude.
Yoder.
Oh, so I just feel like the smart thing would have been to use a neutral location for the exchange, not City Hall or the school. I understand they're working with the locations they have for like the show, but even the graveyards maybe would seem more neutral, but there's vampires there, so I don't know.
I feel like the mayor owns this whole town. There's no neutral town. There's no neutral space in Sunnydale.
I was trying to figure out why they even had it at the school, if like unless they were like contractually obligated to have Armin Shimmerham have like 2 lines an episode. They're like, shit, we're already paying this guy with 2 lines of dialogue.
There must be some law of TV writing that they're doing, because he like had the drug investigation earlier in a bag, and then they're like, oh, because this is going to look kind of like a drug bust at the school, and that's how he'll be there. And I'm like, why the fuck does he need to be there except to be the person that's like, for the one joke, which is like, I wish you were selling drugs or whatever the joke is.
It's a great, I think I really like that he busts in. You're totally right that it's kind of like broken, right? But it's good. I don't know. I just like whenever Snyder's on. And I like what is the power dynamic now with like Snyder being the principal, but he like knows that Buffy and the mayor like are at war, but he like like can't really be the principal to Buffy at this point because he like knows some crazy shit's going down, and we know very specifically now because when we first were introduced to Snyder, it seemed like he was like working with the mayor, but obviously the mayor is not keeping him in the loop.
This reinforces band candy troubles.
Yeah,
that Snyder got into.
The first time I watched this, I thought Snyder was working with Buffy's team because the way he shows up, like right as the exchange goes down, and it wasn't until later that I was like, "Oh wait, no, Buffy tells him to get out of there and stuff." But
was this a thing in like 80s movies where like the cops and the drug dealers were having like they're having some showdown, and then some innocent like third party shows up? Like, is that like a trope from like 80s or 90s movies? Like,
probably. There's a good
this scene happens.
There's a good episode of Community called Advanced Conspiracy Theories, where there's like a gun showdown that keeps like one-upping, and more people keep showing up. Or Intro to Conspiracy Theories. You know that one, Yoder?
oh yeah.
I totally agree with what you're saying, though, Yoder. Like, this is a messed up location. There's only one way in or out, right? Like, it just,
tons of windows.
I guess you can get out through the window. That's right. But, like, there's only one easily accessible way in or out, which, of course, they need for the spider thing to happen.
Yeah.
Like, everything about it seems so contrived in this, like, weird way of, like, they want a few things to happen, but I don't know why. They want to see the spiders get out. They want Shimmerham to show up, and they want it to all be self-contained in one room versus a public place or something like that, or a more neutral setup. So it's like, there's potential for so much more tension, but the tension is more on the fact that the scene is so fucking weird. Like, why here? This is such a weird space. An unused classroom? Like,
it's because it's a space they got.
It's a set. I think it'd be more interesting if like Shimmerham, if the principal, it had like his own like deal going on, like he's just kind of like this person, or like like he's either like a third party. Right now, it's just like a showdown between two parties, and then Shimmer and the principal.
Snyder. Let's just call him Snyder.
Yeah,
Snyder. And that's why it's like not as cool to me, because it's sort of like, what's his motivation in the scene? Is he wants to be friends with Snyder, or he wants to be friends with the mayor?
It's
but
never occurred to me what Snyder's motivation is.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
he wants that drug bust.
it's so late for him to be at the school.
I like also that Xander is carrying the same bat with a hook that Faith used in that Gwendolyn Post episode.
Oh, whoa. Weapons man.
what did you guys feel those spiders aged well?
The show does a good job of keeping them in darkness. I could never see a clear. I was really looking for a clear shot to draw them, obviously, and they just keep them hidden in darkness. They're actually ticks. They're actually more like ticks, like body wise.
Yeah,
and I think they only had 6. They're not even really arachnids. I don't know. I only saw 6.
I was originally going to note that they're kind of bad, the CG spiders. But like the one cop that dies by spider, like he does a really good job of selling that death, even though the thing does not move at all. It's just like him fighting it and then falling down,
It's like being smothered by a pancake.
This is actually kind of funny because the other podcast Yoder and I recorded just earlier today also involved a box and a bunch of spiders. And I'd say Smallville always lights things really brightly, and like everything takes place during the day, so it's not as easy to hide its like bad CG under the cover of darkness as it is for Buffy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Yoder, for drawing attention to the hard work of that now deceased cop. That was pretty phenomenal.
Who, he does a great job with that. But then when he's dead and the spider jumps off, you can see him blink.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
I didn't see that.
Well, you're not counting dead bodies like Dennis says.
Yeah, that's
Gotta
true.
look closely. He's got to go there and check their pulse.
Yeah, I still counted it though. I love the shot after Faith kills the spider and everything of her looking back. And it could be the shot of her looking back at the group like, oh, I regret this choice. But they cut specifically to the knife. And it's like, no, she just misses her knife.
So she's like a serial killer. She misses her knife.
But she could go get it. But no, this is about...
Hey, come on. We've got to go.
I like that interpretation is totally there.
That's not the interpretation. That's what happened.
All right.
No, she's a sequence killer, David. I'm sorry. Sorry.
No, we can get into that with themes. I'm just being bully. I also, the Buffy Willow college scene is the scene that made me tear up. It always makes me tear up. No matter how many times I've watched this episode. The show really emotionally connects with me, partially because of how many times I've watched it and how I've watched it during different periods of my life during emotional times with me. So this when they hug and stuff, it like triggers me and I like tear up. It's so rare for them to like actually hug and tell me they love each other. I don't know. It's good friendship. That's all.
Yeah, it's a really sweet scene. I really liked that scene also. But I didn't tear up like for me, like I think I tear up more at somebody's noble, like either noble sacrifice or someone like, I don't know, what do you call the thing that Oz did where it's like you're like, this is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And it's like when you value human life over, the mission, right?
Yeah. She pulls like a reverse Spock, or he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. The totally emotional, selfish choice. I guess like that. I totally go for that.
It's like they treat the Willow thing like going to a UC school as this big sacrifice. And I know she got into everywhere. It's weird to me that Sunnydale is a UC because UCs are like really good schools. I don't know. They could have called it a state, like, because the California system has the UCs, which are like, I mean, UC Berkeley is like a high-end school, so is UCLA. But then we also have like Sonoma State and San Francisco State, which are like, okay, they're more like normal state schools. So it should have been like Sunnydale State if we were going to treat it like Sunnydale's a bad school.
Well, it's just
Or tech or something.
I don't think it's a bad school. It's just the local school.
Yeah, but but if the local school's a UC, like it's not like every student going to Berkeley High is like, I guess I'll go to UC Berkeley. They're like,
but it's not UC Berkeley, it's UC Sunnydale. Have you ever heard of UC Sunnydale? No.
But I've heard of like every UC. Like if you go to a UC, you're like a good student. Like you can't just in-state get in, because California's college system is like fucked.
I guess I'm not aware of the subtleties there.
Yeah,
but your dad is a professor, so you maybe are aware of more of this shit. Okay, I get it. All right.
All right, Travis, you got the final word and weird noticings.
Oh yeah, just ending with Cordelia, and then there's the surprise that, oh no, she's not shopping at the clothing store, she's working there.
Working retail,
which is rough. And poor Cordelia, like it feels like she's hardly been in season 3 of Buffy since she was brutally betrayed.
I feel like she went through an arc where it was just about her and Xander being mean to each other.
No, it's still ongoing.
Well, that's the thing. And then it seemed like they got away from that, right?
For a few episodes, yeah.
And now it's back. But I feel like she was so extra with being mean to the gang at the beginning of this episode. And the reveal that she's working is like some sort of indication something big is happening in her life that we're not seeing, right? So it kind of makes more sense of why she'd be mean to...
Like extra mean.
Yeah.
I know. If only we had like a special, just episodes dedicated to Cordelia's, like what's going on in her life at this moment.
Oh man, if this show was airing now, then there'd be like web exclusive
episodes. There'd be webisodes.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it would be like positioned as like Cordelia's fashion blog, right?
Oh, that'd be rad. So why is she working retail? Do we learn about why?
We don't know.
Not this episode.
The
other thing that just was really amazing about this episode was that it's almost like an alternate reality because there's still no cell phones in like this show anywhere, and it's just amazing. Like just to watch this, no one's like there's just no like nothing's tied to a cell phone plot or texting or taking pictures or anything like that. So.
Yeah,
it's just like it's just right before cell phones become uber popular.
That's a big thing, like especially in horror stories now, where like that's the new riddle is like solve for the cell phone, right? Like everybody has to be in the woods where you're not getting reception, or because so many plots get solved for it. That's actually one of the things I'm trying to do with my new upcoming graphic novel Whisper in the Woods, is I'm not trying to solve for a cell phone. I'm trying to have the cell phone be active the entire time and have that, instead of deter from the plot, contribute to it. So like the monster they find is going to like be posted on YouTube or, something, just like I'm going to try to use the cell phone as a device instead of like a hindrance.
Can I go off on a tangent? Now you two, David and Dennis, you guys are kind of horror gurus.
I'm
When
not.
the horse came out, or sorry, when the car came out, were there like horror like stories that had to solve for the cars that no longer worked because there were cars and like people could get from one village to another so quickly there wasn't a monster that could catch them, and they're like, car ran out of oil. Tires got popped. First thing the monster attacked was those tires. Akron be damned.
That's a good question. I would immediately think about the original Dracula novel and how that was about the clash of like modern technology versus the old ways, right? And they that Dracula couldn't figure out like shorthand, or that his voice was recorded on like wax cylinders and stuff.
I'm just listening to the Dracula on the book on tape right now again.
Oh yeah. Nice.
So like they do kind of solve for technology in the beginning part because they send him to a remote place.
Yeah.
That doesn't have the technology, so they kind of solve for it initially. But I would just love to read some horror comics that had to solve for,
solve for the car. That's an interesting
right?
idea. Like, so when did the car come out? It was like turn of the 20th century. So like maybe like
1890s.
Most people have cars.
1904, I think was like mass. The Model T was like 1900 something.
Yeah. So I guess like it would have, if it showed up anywhere, it would probably be in like an Edgar Allan Poe short story or something, right? I don't think you ever really mentioned cars.
I'm sure the 1910s, 19 teens, and the Roaring 20s, they definitely had to solve for cars in some of their fiction.
Dude, that's brilliant. I feel like you could totally just have a separate blog, which is just like solve for technology, which is like when stories or, in horror, when like they have to solve a technology, like they're trying to wrap the story around a frame where the technology can't help people because this technology is introduced to help people and prevent situations like that. Like, yeah, like the cell phone range thing. I mean, it's really fun to hear this. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen some other stuff for other vampire related stuff where like they had to solve for the existence for digital cameras or can a digital camera capture an image that a film camera couldn't, or
right.
Genome sequencing and all this other stuff that like could totally ruin the plot.
But I feel like Buffy's pretty smart. I mean, I don't feel like there's so many problems that would only be able to be solved with a cell phone. I do think they could, but the like existence of a monster problem that isn't an international problem is like always going to be an issue for this show. It feels like where, hey, there's a hell mouth that's opened. This information should be able to everyone. They're still going to school like it's not a thing. That's really fucked up. I feel like the show is just not dealing with that versus like that being a technology problem. Like, oh, we don't have newspapers, we don't have ways to share this information. Like, all that shit exists. It's just like, no, this is Buffy's problem.
I guess the reason it comes to mind is two reasons. One, it nostalgic for when we were all in high school. We didn't have cell phones. It wasn't part of our daily life. We had beepers, but it was a whole separate thing.
But I wasn't.
I did.
And actually, I shouldn't say that. Okay. And then there's talk of doing a Buffy reboot, but that's a whole separate thing we can talk about. But it's just.
Well, I was just gonna say, if Buffy happened now, like cell phones, the main thing I feel like it would maybe change besides the gang interacting would be like, then kids would have an app to know if vampire attacks were going on that night, or like if the bronze was safe to go to, or something like that. It would just tell you like if it's safe to go out that night, kind of thing.
Yeah, I would just and so the whole idea of a Buffy reboot would be just different with like this technology because it just seems so antiquated right now.
Yeah, there's a season 4 episode I'm thinking of I can't talk about where they have a lot of communication problems that would have just been solved if people could text.
Oh yeah. All right, we'll keep going. Sorry to derail us.
No, that's good. That was a good tangent. So let's move on to questions for the group.
And if you're one of the 10 people who watch YouTube, can you please, and you know of an instance where a horror comic had to be, or a horror had to be like solved for a car? Tell us, please. I want to know.
You know what, Travis? I'll do a vlog about that one. That's a good problem.
That sounds fun. Okay.
Mike, you got the first question for the group.
Questions for the group.
Hey, what college were your parents hoping for? Do you remember that problem of trying to make your parents happy while also applying for schools?
I feel like I had just made my parents so unhappy my entire high school career that they were just happy I got into a college. So, I mean, they were a little like frustrated I didn't apply to more art schools because they knew I wanted to be an artist, but I just wanted to go to a real school.
Traditional. You went to an amazing school.
Yeah. But yeah, they weren't, they already at that point had like accepted I was an academic failure, and they had my brother with his like academic genius to like count on. But I know my dad didn't put as much pressure on me as your dads put on you guys, Mike and Trev.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think my parents were, college, pre Y2K college at that, or Y2K college is what we should call it. But
I think we could just call it college.
I don't think you have to fixate on the technology aspect. It's not a Y2K problem.
It was sort of a well, back then, you moved away. There wasn't Skype and cell phone. Anyways, there was just a lot of
a lot of phone cards were involved.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was. So I went to college in the local version of UC Sunnydale, which was a state school with John and Kara. So that's why the end of this episode makes me very warm and fuzzy, because we all had gone to the same university, local university. Weren't fighting vampires, but can't have everything, I guess. They were reasonably happy. I ended up changing schools, which they were reasonably happy about, but they never seemed really upset. But I think they wanted me to apply to more colleges farther away, and harder to get into college, harder to get in colleges. But that just wasn't. If I had any regrets, it was that I didn't apply to the college that Mike applied to, but we didn't even coordinate college applications. But
no, I don't recall. We didn't coordinate anything. But
that would just, senior year was just a very strange time in our lives.
Yeah.
To be fair.
My parents were very supportive of me. I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia, that I pursued comics, there. Very expensive. I feel like they'll take you pretty much if you get approved for the loans or whatever. So, I don't at the time thinking well, if I had just gone to Purdue or something and pursued a general education, it would have been a completely free college education pretty much, with my grades and stuff. So I think about that sometimes.
I want to
still
point
paying off college loans.
Yeah, right now that Yoder has the most comic book education, I think of maybe anybody alive in America.
Well, J.P. Coover has the same.
Well, okay, here's where you beat J.P. Coover actually is because
who's J.P. Coover? Can you just educate us a little bit?
Sorry, he's another cartoonist who was in my grade at the in my class at the Center for Cartoon Studies.
Okay.
He does Simple Routines. He's a good cartoonist.
Okay.
So both Yoder and JP went to SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, on the comic book program for undergrad, and then went to the Center for Cartoon Studies for grad school. So that's a shit ton of comic book education.
Yeah.
But Yoder also completed a Joe Kubert class.
I did one correspondence course through the mail, but I thought I told you, maybe I didn't tell you. I never actually completed it. I did 3 or so of the 5 assignments. Well, the thing I was frustrated about was that I enjoyed it a lot, and it was really interesting to get the artwork back with critique of a tracing paper with suggestions of what to change and stuff over it. But I did it because of Wizard magazine. They showed what it was like to go through one of the correspondence courses, and I chose the same course, and it was all the exact same lessons. Like, so like I knew, that the next steps was going to be the exact same thing. And it was also like the summer in between high school and college. So I already knew I was going to SCAD. So I kind of just like let it slip by.
Okay. I just wanted, yeah. You have like a lot of comic book education.
Well, yeah, because I remember you
Too
were
much.
choosing between the Kubert one and the C2C, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I applied and got into the Kubert school, but they were like so mainstream, man.
Your stuff is too mainstream for them?
No. They were way too mainstream. They even asked me like, why would you want to apply here if you want to make your own comics and not start working on superhero comics? And I was like, whoa, I guess I don't.
But Steve Bissett went to the Joe Kubert School. I mean,
He did. He's in the graduate for the first year of the program. So I feel like I got all the Kubert knowledge I would have wanted to get from Steve anyway.
That's awesome.
Have both of you worked on superhero comics?
I've worked on Vampirilla. It's as close to superhero comics as I've gotten.
I've just done my own stuff.
Okay. No, I was just curious. I wonder, like, that's the reason you want to do comics is to do superhero stuff. I didn't mean for the college thing to be like, hey, what did you want to do in your life? I really meant it to be like, what did your parents want you to do? Which is what, like, obviously Joyce is so excited that Buffy is getting Northwestern. For me, my dad had invested a lot of money in my college education, but he put money aside only for schools in Ohio. So I had this big limiting fucking thing. And so I got into Tufts and I could have gone to MIT and that would have been really cool. But
Wow.
I felt limited by the money part of it. Whereas like, well, I don't want to escape the world. So I was looking for a college that was away from where my parents lived. And that was important to me. So I went to OU, but like, I think my parents were mostly disappointed with my major. They wanted me to be either an acting major or an engineering major. And so when I chose English literature, it was like, what the fuck? You can't have a kid. You can't control what they do. This is
He's
terrible.
just burning our money.
I also like that somehow acting is more legitimate than English.
Well, I got an acting scholarship at a different school at Miami, Oxford. And so I could have done acting there, but
That's too close, man.
it was too close to home.
Yeah.
So I had to move further away.
That sucks. Yeah, I mean, my brother also got into Georgetown and a bunch of other schools that he could have gone to. But I mean, I don't know, just to like be able to escape more, but being limited by that.
Well, it's all like fictional limitations. It's all stuff that your parents impose on you that are not real. But at the time, I felt were very real. But I didn't want to do an engineering thing. But Tufts was interesting to me because I like that campus and I like that school. In retrospect, I feel like I should have gone there. But I didn't feel comfortable because my dad was he's like, oh, it's so expensive. And that's literally all your parents have to say to like kill your dream, right? Which is just like, nah, that's really pricey. Like, okay, never doing it.
Yeah.
My life's going to go a completely different direction now.
I get what you. I just feel like I've wasted too much time in my life, like feeling like I could have gone a different course or I could have done like I just feel like the past is done and I'm on the path I'm on and like there's not a point at this point of like be in retrospect looking at things. I mean, not in a like bitter way, not to be like. I mean, obviously, in the future, I'll hopefully make better choices. But
I don't know what you're speculating on, Dennis. This sounds very personal.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Sorry, I just like the thing you said about like in retrospect, I should have done this. Is like,
oh yeah, I can't control that shit. I'm not beating myself up about it. I'm just like in the context of this conversation, like that's what I wanted to do, but I was dissuaded from doing. And since I love OU and I love that college experience, it was great. Like I wouldn't replace that, but it's still like. I definitely felt the parental like, yeah, you should do this. And I'm sure Buffy is like, oh, Northwestern. And like, that'll be a fight in my mind where it's like, oh, we should have gone to Sunnydale.
Well, I think Buffy's mom.
I'm sorry, should have gone to Northwestern, not Sunnydale.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, wants her to both go to a better college and like escape the hellmouth, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's number one. And maybe then getting into a great college is number two. It's just like getting away from the hellmouth. Yeah.
But hell is other people.
And they have mouths.
Dennis, I'm personally very excited about the direction that your life is going. I feel like I'm very, very proud of you. I'm glad to be a part of this journey with you. I'm very excited.
Thanks, buddy.
Well, I relate with what you were saying, Dennis. Like I was talking about with my college choices. That's a big thing that I go back on, thinking about. Like, well, if I had gone like the safe route and gone to Purdue or whatever, like I would have less debt and I would have be down a different road. But it would be a different road. I wouldn't know the same people I know now and everything. So you just have to be okay with what you have and what you are.
SCAD is such a rad school too, man. When I've been to Savannah, living in Florida for a while, like Savannah's amazing. And then when you visit any of the SCAD campus stuff, and like just there's art galleries everywhere, like SCAD just seems like such a rad experience.
Yeah, visiting there pretty much sealed the deal once I went to visit the school.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
All right, Yoder, you got the next question. We're not even in themes, man. We're just
barreling through this, guys.
Questions.
I thought you had one way. Dennis, right?
I thought, Dennis, you had the one about buying drugs.
Box?
No, it's just a joke. When you buy drugs, do you like the exchange to be a giant conspicuous box?
Medieval looking.
That could be really good or really bad if it's like so diluted that that's why they're giving it to you in a big box. Or I guess
Nobody
if
will
you're
ever
buying a
suspect
ton
this
of
midnight exchange
drugs.
of a giant box to be drugs. All right,
I will say modern drug exchanges, though, when you buy weed from places in Portland, they just put it in like a Ziploc bag that is like covered, or like a plastic bag, and that part feels like how drug dealers should have always been doing it. And when you get it like that, you're like, oh, they found a solution. It's a bag, but it's concealed and it can be airtight so there's no smell. Oh my God, you're geniuses.
This Ziploc that's been wrapped 3 times.
Oh my God. No, I've totally, mostly
to hell.
Real drug dealers give you drugs in bags that they get from the grocery store. Professional drug dealers give you stuff in like sealable bags that can't get light in and they're airtight. Oh, fucking anyway.
All right, so are we doing the theme that I have? Is that what you're saying? Or
no,
questions?
You got a question. Have you ever had someone lay out exactly why you shouldn't do something, and then you do it anyway? Yeah.
Like, say your roommate tells you, hey, that ice building up in the fridge is there. You shouldn't use a knife to attack it to try to break up the ice. Like that sort of thing. Or just kind of how, like, the mayor tells Buffy and Angel that, like, this is not going to work out, but they kind of choose to ignore it anyway.
I'm glad you brought up that real example.
I want to know more about the real example.
When Yoder and I were living together, we had a freezer that had a serious ice problem.
It would just keep building up.
And I told him, whatever you do, don't stab it with ice because you'll stab one of the
stab it with a knife. I used a knife just like Faith has in this episode, and I was stabbing at it. No.
And then all the Freon sprayed in his face, and the fridge died. And
yeah.
So, David, I will say with this question, you've really unlocked what it's like to be married. So, it's like perfectly defined in a single question that's never been articulated to me, but that is exactly what it's like. Where your spouse is constantly, I will just make it very clear, your spouse is constantly setting up problems for you to solve and then tells you exactly how to solve them. And then you're like, yeah, but I'm going to do this other way because I can't trust you the same level that I trust myself because I'm married to you and, whatever. I feel like I'm curbing in another direction more recently where I am listening to exactly what my wife suggests as the first thing if, it sounds smart. But, like, there's this weird instinct to be like, nah, I'm doing my other thing. I'm a rebel. Just because you're telling me what to do in a voice that sounds like an adult. Where'd you get that adult voice?
You just picked up this damn Jack Kerouac book and now we won't do anything he's told.
Yeah. But that scene is super strange. I mean, the mayor giving advice like that, but it kind of fits with his character of, kind of.
The big reveal, Mike, this was when he revealed he's 100 or he's 90 years old or whatever, right?
No, we
knew his
found
age.
that out last episode, right?
No, he's like when my Edna.
Yeah, he reveals about his past relationship. But not his age.
We knew he's 100, yeah.
They do the research and they find the photo and they're like father, like son. How about like exact same guy, like exact same guy?
That's right.
No, that's a fun supernatural reveal. I still don't know what kind of monster he is, though, right? Because they haven't really defined what that is.
Yeah, some immortal human demon-looking mofo.
Seems like they should dig in on that, but, they're busy.
Yeah, they got 3 more episodes.
We're getting so close to the end.
Plenty of time to resolve all this.
So I have a stupid question. If you guys have played the Buffy video games or not, but in the video games, can Willow attack vampires with pencil magic? That seems like the spell that she would get. Now that I've seen it happen twice.
I don't know. We haven't played it, but Dingo Action has and will maybe answer because he's answered our video game questions.
Oh, that's right.
I could see that being the move if it was like a side scroller, like arcade beat 'em up game where you're just like going through as Willow, like you can throw pencils that way. I don't know.
You know what? If they ever made a Mortal Kombat version of Buffy, that would be her like fatality. It would be like a swarm of pencils.
And that would be, she'd say like number 2.
And Xander would put on a combat helmet and he would become a soldier.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's a perfect of the era answer too, to actually reference Mortal Kombat. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Before we get into themes and deep stuff, why don't we do recommendations?
Recommendations.
So I recommend the movie Dune because that's got my favorite box. It has the line, to the answer to the question, what's in the box? Pain is in the box. So I recommend that. And then for spiders, I recommend Kingdom of the Spiders with William Shatner, Catwoman of the Moon with a giant goofy spider. This Night I Will Possess Your Corpse, which is the second of the Coffin Joe movies, who's a Brazilian like horror host who made like movies for 20 years that are all about him trying to find a bride. But This Night I Will Possess Your Corpse is the one with the spiders. And I think spiders come from a box in that movie too. And then Undercover Blues with Dennis Quaid and Kathleen Turner.
Thank you.
And now
has anyone actually seen that movie in this group?
Yeah, I've totally seen it. I've seen it a couple times even. Yeah.
I think I saw it when I was visiting my grandma's. Like it was on HBO. She had HBO, so there was a bunch of. It was very like the kind of movie you'd be able to find on HBO in the 90s.
Terrible title. Just terrible.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to themes. Let's get deep.
Deep stuff.
So choices, I think, refers to the choices one makes to make them who they are. And in this case, with Faith, she's choosing her path to go down the path of evil with the mayor. And in the end, like Dennis says, she could be looking back at the knife that she's leaving behind. But I think she's choosing to go with the mayor and instead going with staying with the Scooby Gang. And maybe she's looking at the knife though, but just thinking of leaving it behind as a gift for Buffy. That was my reading.
A gift for her love. I think the choices refers to both the college choice, the major choice about whether to abandon Willow or not, like to sacrifice Willow or not, and then the larger over-season arc of like, does the chosen one have a choice? And in this episode, they say Faith could have been something like Faith made the choice to no longer be a slayer, but to be evil. So we kind of hit all these different periods of choice. But speaking of Faith leaving a gift for Buffy, I was trying to figure out if this is the first time Willow has killed a vampire or not. And I couldn't find that information out. But I found, if I haven't deleted it. Somebody ranked all the times people had killed somebody. And it said Faith, like this many vampires, this many demons, this many humans, and then Buffy's heterosexuality. I thought that was really amusing. Killed it.
I think the final choices is like how the Scooby Gang chooses to treat each other, like vis-a-vis Cordelia and Xander. Maybe they finally made the choice to not be so hateful towards one another, but we'll see. Or
conversely, it could be how Willow has that speech that they've kind of chosen to move on from Faith. Like they've let her go and that she's not worth saving anymore.
It's too late. Yeah, that's a harsh.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that's a good one.
So next episode, we're going to be watching The Prom, so I hope everybody brings their dates. I hope nobody goes stag.
We're just going to talk about prom all next episode. Our own horrible prom experiences.
Bring your prom stories.
They're so
I've been regretting this. I'm not looking forward to this one.
I'm glad I'm not on that one.
I didn't like my original prom.
I've been horror cartoonist Dennis St. John. You can find my comics online. Just search for my name, DENISSTJOHN. And I'm going to be, by the time this episode airs, I'm going to be on an episode of the podcast Funny Book Splatter, talking about my collection, Land of Many Monsters.
Is it Funny Books Platter or Splatter?
Splatter. Like
Splatter.
And Mike, how's your VR vlog?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I will have vlogged about so many things since when this episode airs. But yeah, so I just on YouTube, Michael Poley, look me up. On Twitter, Michael Poley. That's it. I'm vlogging about my weird experiences in VR chat. So if you want to hear about that or see it, I've got an interesting vlog up there about my experiences visiting the Great Lasagna. And all about that, hanging out with lasagna people.
All right, and you can find us online everywhere. We're Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube.
BuffyVirgin.com. BuffyVirgin YouTube. So many ways.
All right, and please like and subscribe and all that. And we'll see you at the prom. By the Watchers Council.
By the Watchers Council.
By the Watchers Council. We will see you.